we are thankful that you won't fail. There's no reason for you to start failing now. You haven't to this point, God. Thank you that you are a firm foundation. Help us to lean on you. Thank you for the encouragement this morning, God. I pray that our hearts are open to your word now, Lord, that we can hear it and receive it, and it can change our hearts and change our lives, and we become better and more like you. It's in Jesus' mighty name we pray. And all God's people said, amen. Y'all can have a seat.
Well, thank you, guys and ladies. And we have been in a series for the last 4 weeks. This is our 5th week, based on a book entitled From This Day Forward by Craig and Amy Groeschel. The outlines have come from that, and I just want you to know that. I hope that you've enjoyed the series. I know several people. If the texts are accurate, we've gotten a lot out of this. I know my wife and I have, and we have enjoyed going through it together, and made some changes in our relationship that I believe are God honoring, and the Lord's blessed that, and we have a deeper relationship now than we did, even just two months ago. And so I'm so very thankful for that. If you're here and you're not married and you're never going to get married, I think you can get some stuff out of this too. And if you're here and you're dating or engaged, or you want to be dating or you want to be engaged one day, I think that laying a good foundation is a really good is a good thing. And so we were talking in our small group this morning just about that, about how you make decisions young, and they'll stick with you. And you make those boundaries, and you decide, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm not going to do. And Maria and I wish that we had done some of these things a lot earlier in our marriage together. And so I hope that you've done that. I hope that you've gotten something out of it. And as we conclude this morning, what we've talked about up to this point, we've talked about seeking God together. You're seeking the one with your two. God is our number one in our life, and our spouse should be number two. And a lot of times we get all that mixed up. A lot of times our spouse, God's way down the list, and our spouse is way down the list. And so as a married couple, we need to make sure that we are seeking God together, that we're doing that as a couple. We do that with our two. And we talked about fighting fair. We talked about having fun. We talked about last week staying pure. And today we're going to talk about never giving up. And I want to say this before I start yelling again. Sorry about that. I want to just say something. The whole series of the songs this morning, we're dealing with with faithfulness and that assuredness that we have. And I just want to say this. If you're a guest with us this morning, we are not perfect people, but we believe in a perfect God. Yes. And I want to say that we're not a perfect church. I'm not a perfect pastor. I'm not a perfect husband. I'm not a perfect anything. None of us are in the room. But I want to just say to those of you who have been here and you have stuck through hard times at this church, and I just want to say thank you for your faithfulness. I really do. I want you to know that. We have a group of people, even in worship here, we have people that have just been here and they're faithful, and I know that I can count on them, and I know I don't have to worry about them being here. And I just, as a pastor to you, I just want to say thank you for all that you do. And for those of you who have stuck through some hard times, and I believe we're in a good time now, yeah? And I just need you to know that. And it kind of goes along with what we're talking about this morning, because we live in a disposable world, yes? And what I mean by that is that we live in this world where people just quit. And people will walk away at just a whim, yes? And I know if you're here this morning and you've been divorced before, I want you to know, I know that there are a lot of reasons that people get divorced, and I know that there's a lot of good reasons that people get divorced. We're not talking about the past today. What we are talking about is the future, yes? And so I want you to know that because this kind of comes across, it can come across as if you've been divorced or anything like that, it can come, hey, I mean, and I'm not, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the future and looking down the road. And listen, I want to say this. If you are here or you are watching online, I think our online's back up. Is it back up? Yeah. Facebook was trying to shut us down a few minutes ago, but we're back up. And so, but I want you to know if you're in a relationship that is abusive, you need to get out of that relationship. Yes. If you're in a relationship that you need to get out of that, and so I want you to know that up front. And I don't think that anybody needs to be abused or stay in an abusive situation or anything like that. And I want you to know that. I have a family member that was in an abusive relationship for several years, and I wish that she had gotten out of it. The second that it showed signs of that, and so you don't stay in that. But we live in this disposable world, and the idea is if you talked about it last week, I'm entitled to everything, and if something doesn't seem to be going my way, I'm going to walk out of it. I'm going to walk away from it. It carries over into our relationship with God. Yes, I mean, can we all agree to that? That if my need isn't getting met, if I'm not getting what I think I need, then I'm just going to walk away from something, and I'm going to walk away. And lots of people do that. Lots of people walk away from churches for a lot of good reasons, but a lot of people just walk away because sometimes it gets hard. Yes. And a lot of people walk away from their relationship with God because they don't think that God's meeting my needs like He should, and it becomes disposable. The hardest thing I've ever done in my life, some of y'all have heard me tell this story before, and I only have 5 stories, so there you go. I got 52 weeks, but the hardest thing I ever did, I ran an ultra marathon several years ago. It's probably been 11, 12 years ago, and the ultra marathon was 31 miles, and I know that sounds like a lot of fun. It wasn't. And so I trained for it. I thought I had trained fairly well for it because I had run a bunch of marathons up to this point, and I thought, a marathon's 26 miles. This is 31. It's only 5 more miles. I'll be fine, right? Yeah, that's what everybody thinks. No, it wasn't. This marathon, this ultra marathon was up in the mountains in Huntsville, and so I drove from here. We were living here at the time. I drove from here to Huntsville, and it was like in February because we were in Upwards basketball at the time. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. And so I drove up there, and I camped out overnight, and it was freezing. I was the only person in the campground. Should have told me something there. And that morning I got up and I went to the race site and where the race was, and it was in the mountains. I mean, it was just a crazy race. And so runners are pretty polite people. We talk before races and everybody's kind of chumming it up, but we're really sizing each other up. You're really like going, okay, I can beat him. That guy's going to kill me. This guy, and that's really what's going on in your head. And so as we're all standing around talking, there were these 5 guys that I connected with, and we were all standing around. And they said, they were talking, and everybody was talking about how many ultra marathons they had done before. And this guy said, I've done 7. This guy said, I've done 10. This guy said, I've done however many. And then they got to me, and I said, this is my first. And everybody went, oh. And I knew I was in trouble. Like, I knew at that moment that this is not going to go well. There was one point in this race that you were running through a creek. Not across a creek, through the creek. Like, the flags turned left and went into the creek. I mean, it was like that. And at one point I was running, and I was on this little ledge running next to the creek, and I looked up, and there was this mountain, and there were people running that way. And I thought to myself, I got to get up there somehow. And I came to a rope, and I had to pull myself up this marathon. And I told Maria, I said, it takes me about 3 hours and 15 minutes to run a marathon. I should be done in about 4 hours, 4:15, something like that. 6 hours later, I'm telling you, I depleted everything in my body. Like there was food stations, and they had these checkpoints. It was you followed flags on this race. And there were these checkpoints, and you had to get to that checkpoint. If you didn't get to a checkpoint at a certain amount of time, they sent like a helicopter and dogs to look for you. I mean, that's how crazy this thing was. And I got to mile 29, and my body just shut down. I mean, it just said, enough. We've had enough. And I can't do this. There's no way I can finish this. And I knew that if I could get to mile 30, there was the last checkpoint. And if I could get to mile 30, somebody would be there, and I could hitch a ride back, I guess. And so I have nothing left. And I come running up. There's a guy in front of me. He's probably about maybe 20 meters in front of me. And he's toast too. We're both dead. I mean, it's like, I don't even know that you could call what I was doing running at this point. It was more like walking, I guess, walking and jogging or something. I don't know. But there were cuts all over my legs. I mean, I was beat up. And as we're coming up, we're at mile 30. There's a guy standing there with a clipboard and a four-wheeler. And I'm thinking, I'm getting on that thing right there. And I'm going to make it back. And this guy, he's ahead of me, and he gets to the guy first, and he goes, man, I'm done. I'm out. I'm dropping out. And the guy goes, okay. He said, are you sure? And the guy said, yes, because he was thinking, and I was thinking at that point when I was listening to this, that's my four-wheeler. You're not getting on that four-wheeler. I will fight you to the death. And it won't be hard because I'm about dead. And I got there, and I heard that guy say that. I could hear the conversation going on. And the guy with the clipboard goes, okay, if you'll just walk this trail about a mile, you'll be back at camp. You got a four-wheeler. And so in my mind, I thought to myself as I was walking up to him to quit, and I heard that conversation, and that guy goes, because the race went the other way, and the guy goes, okay, and he starts walking down that trail. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm at mile 30, and I got to walk back a mile in a 31-mile race? Why don't I just finish the race? Seemed logical. And so I said nothing. And I turned left, and I ran back to the finish line. The absolute hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I wanted to quit, and I wanted to quit, and I wanted to quit. I did not want to do this. And I'm telling you, the guy who did quit saved me. Because I was out. And here's the flip side of this, too. Is I was used to running like the New York City Marathon and the Marine Corps Marathon where there's thousands of people. In the New York Marathon, you pass 2.2 million spectators. That's how many people are. It's 6 deep for 26 miles. And they're cheering you on, and you write your name on, like I wrote my name on my arms, and I had a shirt that said, my name is Brent, and people were like, go Brent! And I was like, I'm the man, I must be winning. And then I would remember, oh no, my name's on my shirt, and I was like, this is the greatest thing. And then you come to the finish line of these marathons, and they put medals on you, and everyone's cheering your name, and it's just this awesome experience. I got to the end of this race, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I get there, and there's a guy sitting in a lawn chair, and I come across the line, and he goes, here's your hat. And he goes, good thing you finished. I only got 2 left. And then he goes, pizza's over there. Okay. And listen, this was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and some of y'all can testify to this. Marriage might be harder, yes? No, listen, there's days, right? And there's days that we want to quit, and there's days that we want to walk away, and there's days that we just want to walk away. And a lot of people do. I told you, every week you got a 50-50 shot of staying married. I mean, 50% of marriages last and 50% don't. And you got a 50-50 shot of that happening. And if you don't do anything to protect that, that number probably goes up, yes? And that's the thing, that's the problem in our world, is that everything's just disposable. We just walk away when things get hard, and when things get tough, we walk away. And I want to say to you this morning, if you're married here and you're in a relationship and you're having a hard time, do not give up. I've said thank you so much for your faithfulness to this church in hard times, and I mean that. The biggest frustration of being a pastor and a youth pastor, as I was for a long time, and being the pastor now, is to just see people just walk away. And you pour into them, and you pour into them, you pour your life into them, and people just walk away and never say a word. And if you don't think that hurts pastors, it does. Now, I know we're not supposed to hurt, and we're not supposed to feel, and we're not supposed to do anything. And people say, well, God told me to. Well, you're just using God as an excuse. That's it. I think God gets the credit and the blame for lots of things he wants nothing to do with. Yeah? And in our marriages, we do the same thing. We just walk away because it gets hard. We've all got that friend on Facebook. That date night with my man, right? And then they break up, and the Facebook statuses are frustrated for about 3 weeks, right? And then they met the love of their life all of a sudden, right? We all know that person, yes? And you're just jumping from here to here to here to here. He didn't meet my needs. He doesn't meet my needs. He doesn't meet, well, do you? I mean, this is a give and take, yes? And we just walk away. Matthew 19, 3 through 6. It says this. It says, the Pharisees came up to him and tested him by asking, is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause? He answered, have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What, therefore, God has joined together, let no man separate. And Jesus is being tested here. They're asking him this question. And what he's saying is, look, he's saying, don't give up. And back then, I mean, the question comes up, and why doesn't the Bible talk a lot? And when we have a lot of things about dating and about all this, because women back then were viewed as property, yeah? And so basically what they're saying is can that contract be broken? Because that's the way it was looked at back then. It was looked at as a contract. Well, can I tell you that marriage is not a contract, it's a covenant, yes? It's something that we do. It's something that we say before God. We get together, and listen, I understand how marriages work now. I understand that, I've told y'all before, you don't really need me anymore, because in the state of Alabama, all you need is to make sure Tiffany's at the library, right? You need a printer, or you can find Miss Jones here. She's a notary. And that's the way it is. But can I just tell y'all something? Listen, young people who are engaged, or young people who want to be engaged, students, listen to me. You get a pastor to do your wedding. And you stand for your family and your friends and God, and you make a commitment. It's not a contract. Contracts are used when we distrust someone, yes? I have a rental house in Charlotte, and I have a contract. I have a lease with the renter because I don't trust him, right? You signed a lease. You signed a mortgage with a mortgage company. Do you know why? They don't trust you. And that's what we do in contracts. Contracts limit our responsibility, and it increases our rights. A covenant is a permanent relationship. And the term that's used here is called berith. It's a covenant. And basically what it means, because back in these days, this is what they would do. They would take a bull, if they were making a contract, they would cut the bull in half, and they'd lay the two sides, and then you would walk through it. And you would say, basically what you're saying is, look, if I don't live up to my end of the deal, may what happened to that bull happen to me. It's a pretty serious thing, yes? It's a covenant. It means something. When they would do weddings in these days, they would take a hand and they would take a knife and they would cut your hand, the husband's hand, and they would cut the wife's hand. And then they would tie together with a rope. And they would say, based off of Leviticus, a passage in Leviticus, but they would join hands and they would tie that rope together, and they would say, let this not be broken. It's that serious. We do now like unity candles, right? I've got a wedding Saturday that I'm doing Saturday afternoon, and they're planning. They're going to plant something together. They're going to use a plant, and they're going to say this is our unity candle, so to speak. I think, what did y'all use? Also, y'all did a cross. Y'all put it together, right? And then I know some people have used paint, and some people they use all of these things. But what it's saying is, this is serious. You make a covenant. You say, from this day forward until death do us part. As long as we live, we're going to be together. And let me say this to you. Those of you who are dating or engaged or whatever, that's what the dating period is for you to kind of get to know that person, yes? Don't just jump don't jump from relationship to relationship to relationship. Because see, the best thing that could happen to some of us in this room is that we take a year off from dating, yes? And that we figure out who we are before we try to figure out who we are together, yes? And I think that, I'm just being honest with you. And let me tell you this. One of my best friends did this. He took a year off from dating, and I'm not saying this is going to happen to you, but he took a year off from dating. About 3 weeks into that year off, he met the girl of his dreams. But he made a commitment. And he said, I'm not going to date. I got to figure some things out. I need to get my life right. I need to get my relationship with God because that's my priority. He said, I need to get my relationship with God right. And 3 weeks into it, he met the girl of his dreams. But he made a commitment and he stuck with it. And they did not date for a year. And they're married today. I mean, he said, could you wait 52 weeks? And for some crazy reason, she did. But they're happily married today. Never give up. Andy Stanley said, don't unwon what God has won. Yes? Don't unwon what God has done. Most of you know, I've heard the name Billy Graham before. His wife was Ruth Graham, and she was married to him for years. Billy Graham, if you don't know who he was one of the, just what we would say he was probably one of the greatest evangelists of all time. But with that relationship and with that job, he would be gone a lot of the times. And so, like one thing said that he would be gone like 6 months at a time. That's about how much time he would spend on the road, and he would be doing his things. And somebody asked Ruth Graham one time, they said, have you ever thought about divorcing him? And she said, I've never thought about divorcing Billy Graham, but I have thought about murdering him. We keep the covenants that we make. You're not going to sell your car when you run out of gas, are you? But you're going to tend to it. You're going to take care of it. And all of the things that we've talked about will lead us to this place. When we seek God together, when we fight fair, when we have fun together, and we keep purity in our marriage, we don't allow things in, it will take us to this place that we will never give up. Think about sowing and reaping. Galatians 6, 7 through 9 says this. It says, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that he will also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption. But the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Let me say two things real quick and I'll finish. One, you reap what you sow, yes? If I go out this door right here and I plant a Satsuma tree, it's not going to grow up on this. It's not going to grow on this side, is it? You reap what you sow. If I plant a Satsuma tree right outside this door, it's going to grow right outside that door as long as I tend to it and as long as I take care of it, yes? You can't get what you don't plant. You can't get an apple from a Satsuma tree, yes? We react now in our world. We don't respond to things. And we've got to get to a place where we are people who respond and not react. You've heard me tell the story. I started to pull out in front of somebody about 2 years ago. It was on Shelton Beach Road. I started to pull out in front of them, and they told me I was number one. It's not what they said. And as I didn't pull out in front of them, I pulled behind them. They had their cool church logo on the back. That's why I've waited so long to get these vinyl stickers for our car. Right there. And I said, you're sending a mixed message. You reap what you sow. If we show grace, we receive grace, yes? If all we show is criticism, if all we show is negative and yang and all of that, that's probably what we're going to get back, yes? It's the same in our marriage. If you don't tend to it, if you don't take care of it, if you don't do those things, you're going to get what you get. Empty. We show others what we often get. If you don't like what you're getting, can I ask you this question? What are you giving? If you don't like what you're getting out of your relationship, can I ask, what are you putting into it? If you don't like something I'm doing at this church, can I ask you this? What are you putting into it? Yes? It's the same in our marriage. Don't give up, but what are you putting into it? What work are you doing? We reap what we sow, yes? And let me say this, you reap where you sow. If I plant that tree out there, I got to tend to it, don't I? We talk about this a lot, our Satsuma tree back here. Who was it that took care of that? Bill, yes. Bill would come up here and fertilize that Satsuma tree out there, and it grew, and the fruit on it was amazing. And we would eat them all the time back there, the Satsumas. Well, Bill's been gone a couple of years. He passed on, and I haven't done what Bill did. And if you go out there right now, there's still fruit hanging on that tree. Why? They just weren't that good. Right? They just weren't that good. Because we didn't do anything. We didn't take care of it. We didn't do what we should do. What are you investing in? Where is your energy going? Where are you is probably where you are. Are you seeking God in your marriage? Are you fighting fair in your marriage? Are you having fun? Are you staying pure? Are you willing to give up? I want to say this, and I want to say it. Your marriage is as good as you decide it's going to be. Yeah? It takes both. What you sow and where you sow. And I know some of you are sitting in the room right now going, you don't understand, Brent. I am trying in my marriage and my spouse is not. I just want to say this. I agree, and it takes both of you. But you keep trying. Yes? You keep trying and you never give up. Galatians 6:9, the last part of that verse, it said, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. And I want to finish strong. I want to finish my life strong. I want to finish whatever years I have left in ministry. I want to finish strong. I want to finish coaching strong. I want to finish those things. And I want my marriage to be strong. And I want to finish that strong. Because we said, till death do we part, yes? I want my wife, if I go before her, I want my wife to say, I had a great love story. Let me tell you about a great love story. Let me tell you about my husband. I want her to know, and I want her to have confidence that no matter what, I'm never giving up on her. And I want you to know, we both say this. She'll agree with me. When I say this, her head should probably be nodding. But there was a year that we did not want to stay together. And I'm just being honest with you. Sometimes I feel like I'm too honest with stuff, but listen, I want you to understand there was a year that we felt like giving up. And there were a lot of reasons that we stayed together, and one of them, if I'm being honest with you, one of them was my job and what that would look like. But I want you to know that we never stopped fighting. And I'm forever grateful that she didn't walk out on me. I want her to be able to tell that love story. I want her to be able to say, my husband loved me. I want my kids to be able to say, you know what? I know that my mom and dad had hard times. I know that they went through stuff. I know that they did that. But the one thing I learned from them was this, that they never gave up. There's a lot of people that spend a lot of time blaming their parents for a lot of things, yes? I want my kids to go, you know what? No matter what, my mom and my dad never gave up on each other. And I'm better for it. See, we seek God together, and we fight fair, and we have fun, and we stay pure, and we never give up. In a disposable world where we just walk away, if you're here this morning and you're married, never give up. If you're here this morning and you want to be married one day, I want you to understand something. You seek out God and you become the right person, and the right person will come along. Yes? And that's more important than finding the right person. You become the right person, and I'll guarantee you, you'll find the right person. But we're too busy not trying to become the right person. We're too busy. We leave God out of the mix. And then we get in a mess and wonder where God is. And I think God's the whole time going, I'm right here. If you'll seek me, if you'll find me, listen, you will find me. You know, the verse that says, seek, knock, you seek and knock and you will find, yes? The door will be opened unto you. And the way that translates over is this, is that you keep asking, you keep seeking, and you keep looking for him, and he will reveal himself to you. But the problem with too many of us is, and the problem with me is I leave him out of the mix all too much. Never give up. Marriage can be very hard. It can be very, very difficult. Maria was saying this morning, part of the book talks about this, and it's right. Sometimes you got to remember why you fell in love with somebody. You know what I mean? Because like sometimes the things that you fell in love with become the most annoying, right? She looked at me when she said that. I don't know what that meant. We need to talk about that later. Guys, never give up on their marriage. And if you're here again, and you're wanting to be married one day, or you're wanting to date, listen, set the standards now that I am never going to give up on that person. You become the right person, you will find the right person, and you will have a great life together. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. But you never give up. And if you're in this room or you're watching us online, and you're at that place where you're ready to walk away, don't give up. I am forever grateful that my wife and I stayed together through that really, really, really rocky year. I'm better for it. And I think she is too. But we could have walked away. And we didn't. We stuck it out and we stayed together. I hope over the past few weeks that you've heard some of the things that we've said and maybe applied some of them. Again, we've talked about seeking God with your spouse, fighting fair, having fun, staying pure, and never giving up. And I hope God's doing some amazing things. I am believing big that God's going to do some great things in some marriages. I believe that he wants to heal some marriages, and I believe that he wants to do some things that we never thought possible. Yes? But it takes us doing the things that he has called us to do. Let's bow our heads. If you'll do this, if you'll just bow your head and close your eyes, and I'm going to ask if you're married in this room and your spouse is in this room, I'm just going to ask that you'll take them by the hand right now. And everybody else, keep your heads bowed and your eyes closed. And if you're married and you're holding your spouse's hand, I want you to look up and look them in the eyes. Look at them, don't look at me. And I want you to say this following. Just repeat after me. You can whisper it, whatever you want to do. Just say this. I promise, from this day forward, with you, to seek God. I promise that I will fight fair. I promise that we're going to have some fun. Now wink at them. I promise that if there is any impurity, I'm going to change that. And I promise to never give up on us from this day forward. Father God, we love you, and we thank you for just all that you do. And God, I pray that this morning that you'll do some amazing things in this service, that your Spirit, I believe, is here and has moved. And God, I pray that you'll move in the midst of our marriages. I'm believing big that we can have marriages like we never thought possible, not because of anything, but because of you, because we're seeking you and we are doing the things that you've called us to do. I know there's probably some folks in trouble in here, and I know there's probably some folks that are struggling, and I know that there's probably some folks that have struggled through this whole series. God, I pray that you'll just reveal yourself through this, and that you'll just do some amazing things in our lives. We love you, and we want to seek you in all that we do, especially in our marriages. It's in your Son's name we pray. Hey, if you'll keep your heads bowed and eyes closed just for a second. I wanted to read this verse to you as we're kind of turning our attention to Easter, and over the next several weeks as we do that. Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 says this. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of God." Let me say this last part again. Who for the joy that was set before him. And often I think about what Jesus went through on that cross and what he did for us. And he put it, that joy that we're talking about, that's you. Is that he looked through space and time and he saw you. And Jesus wants to do something in your life that's amazing. If you're here this morning and all that we've talked about, you've never taken that first step in following him, we want to give you that opportunity this morning. We don't ever want to close the service. We're talking about marriage, talking about money, talking about whatever we're talking about. We don't ever want to close the service without giving you that opportunity. And if you're here or you're watching online, it begins with a prayer. And we're going to say that prayer. We're going to say it together because we don't want anybody to ever say that prayer alone. But the prayer goes like this. And just repeat it after me. It goes, "Dear Jesus, I believe that you died on a cross, and 3 days later you rose again. I know I'm a sinner, and I need forgiveness. I want to invite you into my heart. I want to ask you to forgive me of my sins, and I want to start to live for you. It's in your name I pray." Hey, it's just that simple. And if you said that prayer this morning, I want to be able to talk with you. In just a second, we're going to have what we call an invitation. The altar is going to be open down here, and if you need to come and pray over anything, maybe you need to take your spouse by the hand and say, "Hey, we hadn't started this praying together every day thing, but let's do it right now," and you need to come down and you need to do that. But if you're here this morning and you said that prayer, I'm going to be right down here. I'll be happy to talk to you about that prayer. I got some information I'd love to give you. And maybe you're here and you want to know more about becoming. We had a couple that came last week to our First Steps class that joined, and maybe you're here and you want to do that same thing, and I can tell you how to do that. Maybe you're here and you're not comfortable coming down and talking to me. That's okay. Listen, you can get my number, and you can call me this week, and we'll meet and we'll talk and whatever you want to do, because we don't want you to start this journey. We don't want you to go through it by yourself. But maybe over the next few minutes, you just need to come and kneel and pray. Maybe you just need to come and kneel and pray for our church. God's going to do some great things this year. We are believing big that by the end of this year, God's going to do some great things. He's already doing some great things. But we want to look back and just believe big that he's done what he said he was going to do. So I'm going to pray one more time, then we're going to stand together. We're going to worship a little bit. And if you need to come forward and pray, you do so. God, thank you again for today. Move in our midst and do some great things in this place this morning. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for that faithfulness that you have for us. Thank you for just all that you do for us. And God, I pray that we'll remain faithful to you in all that we do. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. Let's stand together.